Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the PYRAcast. We are on episode 4 now. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's something we do once a month, assuming that we can find a guest within that month and Christmas doesn't delay everything. So when we figure it out. Thank you all so much for being here. Once again, we have an amazing guest this time, somebody who has had so many accolades in his career. William Orrell's here as well, so thank you for being here. We have two amazing people here. Ethan Jones, my right-hand man, right? Did I say that right? Right-hand man in the stacking world, and also the tournament director for PYRAtlanta, PYRAtlanta. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but don't forget to sign up. Link is in the description. And of course, our guest host, the, I believe, 35-time Guinness World Record holder, one-time Power World Record holder, bajillion different achievements broken, barriers broken, first stacker to reach a 4-second cycle in and out of tournament, and the guy that everybody was terrified of for probably 5 straight years. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest. It's William Orrell. William, thank you so much for being here, man. We appreciate you jumping on, sparing some time today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, everybody's hyped up in chat. It is a momentous day. I think you are probably the most requested guest, other than which the request of everybody else, with Shankag, Ian. You and Ian have been the top 2 in every category, including the amount of people demanding us that you get on the show. So, head held high there for that. And we have a lot to talk about today. I apologize for the laughter. We were having a lot of fun off broadcast before we started. And we have a lot to talk about as well. Obviously, PYRAtlanta has just gotten announced. We have so much in store for that. Obviously, we're hoping Orrell, Ethan. Well, I mean, Ethan, I know you're gonna make it down. Of course, I hope so. But Orrell, we're hoping you make it down. We're hoping that we have a lot of our top stackers there as well. We're doing a lot to make sure you and Ian get there. And you guys are both getting part of the Pyro travel funds if you come. But on top of that, we also have some other updates in the background, and the biggest update that you guys have probably already seen, if you haven't seen our blog post about it yet, we'll update you now. It's an update to the PYRA point rankings. The point rankings have seen a massive shift in how it is formatted. We're now taking a little bit more into the depth of what the tournaments that are actually going to be taking for where you can actually earn points for the PYRA point rankings. So it's not just PYRA tournaments anymore. There are a couple of WSSA tournaments. We have a KSSA tournament, and we might actually be looking at one other tournament organization, but we're not positive on that yet. Chanking Ian, still far away in the lead right now with 1,000 points, a total of 1,000 points that you can get. So he's still at the front of the race. But William, you have moved up to 2nd place. You were previously at 3rd. You're now at 2nd place by a full 25 points, right ahead of Tyler Hollis. It is a close-knit race between you two, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. Other than that, not too many things have shuffled. Karifla moved out of the top 8 by just about 15 points. Shin Kong Yu and Tyler Fano have both been added to the top 10, and Tyler Fano storms up to the top 5. I think it was previously, it was like 11th or 12th, and he's all the way at top 5 now. So again, a massive shuffle in some of the spots of the PYRA point rankings, but the top dogs are still very comfortably at the top. And Orrell, yourself, moved up to number 2. You're inching your way there. I think if you knock a Marquee tournament off of Ian, one or the other, or a couple, hey, if you do it multiple times over, then you'll definitely take that top spot. But on top of that, we have the PYRA point rankings. That's what's actually, making sure that we have extra benefits for our top stackers to make sure, of course, we can get them to our PYRA tournaments and just make sure they get benefits in general. But another format that we have is the PYRA Power Rankings. This is entirely for fun. This is just what we like to make each other. And this is the first time that a guest has actually not submitted the PYRA Power Rankings. William, you didn't want to do it this time. You weren't sure about the current landscape of where all the stackers are, which is entirely fair, by the way. That's actually a very polite thing to do, just not knowing where the world is at. But Ethan and I are not as polite. We did it. So here's our current PYRA Power Rankings. Right now, Orrell's is just the default top 5, where our current top 5 are Chen Kang Ian himself, Tyler Hollis, Evan Cloud, and Tyler Fano. Ethan, you have the same stackers in a different order. Shane Kang Ian, Tyler Hollis at second, Orrell at third, Tyler Fano at fourth, and Evan Cloud at fifth. And then myself, I threw a huge 180 curveball. Shane Kang Ian, William Orrell, Tyler Hollis, Evan Cloud. And at the end of that list, Astro Wilmoth. You may have formerly known him as Billy Wilmoth. And I'm not sure, by the way, I just want to clarify this. I'm not sure if that is a new identity, like an actual identity change in the name, or if that's like a stage name, or if it's a little bit of both. But Astro is my fifth, and I know we'll probably want to talk about Orrell and Ethan, your reasonings for your lists, but I'll talk about mine first as to why I don't have Tyler Fano at fifth. For starters, Tyler Fano absolutely is top 5 material, I believe, in the stacking world right now. I think he's incredibly talented, and I think that he absolutely has the potential to be one of the best, if not the best in the world. At PCS Double Down, the only stacker that he lost to was Shane Kang Ian. So you can kind of understand that, he beat every other stacker in his way, Tyler Hollis, Evan Cloud. Me personally, I think he needs a little bit more time in the oven. I think we need to see just a little bit more out of him in some of the more marquee tournaments, maybe some of the Pyro tournaments. I'm not sure if he's going to Worlds or not. That's going to be a big question mark for a lot of stackers to see where these guys are actually placing. But yeah, Tyler Fano absolutely has the potential. The reason I go with Astro is Astro's already had an amazing start to the year. I think broke 1 or 2 regional records, and obviously just breaking personal bests. Not to mention, Astro Wilmoth 1 round away, 1,000th of a second away from beating Tyler Hollis. It was as close as it could have possibly gotten, and just barely missed the mark. Sorry to rub that in again, Astro. But yeah, I personally think that Astro absolutely has the potential to be top 5. It's just a matter of the execution there and seeing if we can get some more in-person results from him, and seeing if the I'm not sure really how to word it, but just the longevity as well for Astro. I went with a bit of a spicier pick, but Ethan, let's talk about your list as well, because you did have a couple changes to the general top 5. Same 5 stackers, different order. Let me ask you, what was the reasoning for putting Tyler Hollis ahead of our very special guest here, William Orrell? I want to hear the reasoning for this.
William, no offense, I love you, buddy.
All good.
I think we're kind of coming up to the point where, yes, we do still technically have a limited sample size of tournaments, but I do think that we have enough now to kind of gauge where everybody stands in the PYRA environment. So William has competed in 2 events. Is that right, William? That would have been Double Down, and then the first one,
Pyra Cup All Stars.
Yeah, Pyra Cup All Stars. Tyler, to my knowledge, has only competed in 1. I have to base my placement of Tyler mostly off of his performance there. Placing second with a very difficult bracket, and obviously, I was saying that I felt like he may not perform as well because he hasn't really competed in a head-to-head format, and he was just like, well, no, that's not that. No,
I got something else for you here.
Yeah, I think the 2 are interchangeable. Ian is not interchangeable. Ian is staying at number 1.
Yeah.
But between William and Tyler, I really think it's a toss-up. I had to give the slight edge to Tyler right now, just based on his performance at Double Down. Really, just even though a few of those matches were pretty close, I just think he did impress a lot at his last showing.
Yeah. And you make some really solid points there for Tyler Hollis as well, but in both retrospects, because in one way, Tyler did beat Orrell at Double Down. It was by 1 round, and you can even chalk it up to the fact that Orrell had about 17 different Gen 5 timers that all decided not to work in the moment. Unfortunate.
A little too sweaty, yeah.
Yeah, a little too sweaty. That's such a weird, that's such an unfortunate way to fall out. But you still kept it competitive even after the malfunction, so that's, props to you there. And on top of that, I think the run was very impressive, even if it also wasn't at times where he did almost lose to Astro Wilmoth, somebody who had not really been on the radars. It would have absolutely been considered an upset if Tyler had lost to Astro there. And that entire run is gone too, but he held through. In a way, he took the most rounds off of Shane Kang Ian as well. But there was also way more rounds to compete, and I think if it would have just been another first to 5, it would have been 5-0 for Ian in that case, because I don't think he got a round win until round 6. So it's understandable there. There was another change for your top 5, Ethan. It was Tyler Fano and Evan Cloud. You have Fano at 4th and Evan at 5th. And Tyler Fano seems to be the hot prospect. Obviously, PCS Double Down. He beats Evan Cloud and Tyler Hollis in the group stage. Couldn't make a deep enough run at Double Down in the playoffs because, again, he ran into Chang Kang Ian. What can you do? So, Ethan, to ask you there, if you have Chang Kang Ian in person and you have Evan Cloud and you have Tyler Fano as one of the 2 stackers to be facing Chang Kang Ian, either in a final or in a semifinal or something, what gives you the confidence to say, yeah, I want Tyler Fano competing against him?
When I look at Tyler Fano, I feel like, obviously it was kind of bad luck running into Chen Kang Ian basically twice in a row. And, assuming he were to have faced somebody else within that bracket, Ian is just undeniable. I think Fano probably would have stood a better shot at possibly advancing against one of the other competitors, with all due respect to them, of course. It's just that, Ian is just...
He's Ian.
Like I just said, he's just a buzzsaw. But I also do have to base it on, Tyler Fano's progression. Because, I've never seen... And, we've seen a lot of stackers sort of like, come to the community and, quickly like rise up the ranks. With Tyler Fano, it was just ridiculous though. Like I've never seen somebody progress as fast as he did. There really are certain stackers that just sort of have like that it factor. And I think Tyler Fano fits the mold of one of those stackers who just has it. There's no real like, he has like the intangibles, just something you can't explain, but like it when you see it, especially with his consistency and raw speed and cycle.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and I think that you have 2 different arguments there for Tyler Fano and Evan Cloud. You could say they're interchangeable. I'd say Evan Cloud off of the factor of longevity. He's had a consistent, I think, his 2023 year, his season there was pretty phenomenal, all things considered. He had a rough go in the playoffs, only made top 8 there, but for Double Down, excuse me. But I think he got top 3 at juniors or top 5 at juniors, something like that. Was consistent all year round, arguably one of the best stackers of the year. And now we have to talk about, of course, our guest, William Orrell, who was also at that juniors tournament and is continuing his unbelievably strong junior streak. Won juniors. Oh, yeah. How many were you on again?
I've gone to 9 Junior Olympics, and I've won 6 of them.
Oh, my God. So that is literally a 66 or 67% win percentage for Junior Olympics alone.
I won 2nd at 2 of them as well. So podium 8 out of 9.
That is absolutely absurd. And that is why, basically by everybody's admission, that you are, if not the best of all time, you have to be in that conversation. But I mean, to anybody in the recent years, you are by far still the greatest of all time. Until Ian starts beating you head to head in person, I think you still are far and away the leader in that, just off of the achievements again alone. And speaking of which, you have a couple of tournaments to kind of, again, get ahead of the curve here. We're going to talk a little bit about, of course, PCS Atlanta, PYRAtlanta, but as well, Worlds is right around the corner. And I think, are you going to Worlds, Orrell?
Nope,
or not? You know what? Let's move on to our next topic. All right. No,
let you down there, but not going.
No, that's fair. I mean, it is in Singapore?
Yeah.
Singapore, yeah. So, I mean, that should tell you about as much as I knew about it. But that is one of the PYRA Marquee tournaments that is coming up. We were considering doing adding Hotlanta to the Marquee tournaments, but we're not sure, 1, how many people were showing up, and 2, obviously, with there being 2 different Atlanta tournaments, that might be, we don't want this to like contradict each other. Sorry, Ethan, were you going to say something?
I will say, especially after the Nationals tournament sort of folded, like in with relative attendance and compared to um, the stackers that actually go to Hotlanta, I would probably say it's pretty much the equivalent of nationals now. I know that there was the U.S. Open back in like 2020 or something, but and Worlds 2022 was held in 2022 was held in Colorado, but I feel like that was just like a satellite tournament rather than just like specifically nationals. So I would probably say Atlanta by comparison's pretty much nationals.
Mm-hmm. Feels like it, doesn't it? It does feel like a hotspot tournament, which obviously is why we wanted to look into it for June. Speaking of which, I will talk a little bit about PYRAtlanta, and this will be the shameless promotion moment where I talk about it. Everybody, if you're not signed up for PYRAtlanta, you better get signed up. Biggest prize pool we've ever done, most competitive format we could possibly do. It's a 2-day tournament. It's about as good as it gets. It's going to be as close to nationals as it's basically going to get, even in the format itself, with just the way of finals and way of head-to-head competition. Make sure you sign up now. cupstackingpyra.com/apply. cupstackingpyra.com/apply. I'll scream it until the end of the world. You'll be hearing about me a lot. Sorry, from me a lot. And obviously, Orrell, we're still trying to figure out to get you there as well. You do receive a bit slice of that pie of the PYRA travel funds, of our $500 travel funds for our top 4 stackers there. So if you do decide to come, you'll receive a little bit of compensation there. But on top of that, we have to talk about these marquee tournaments as well, and the people who are going to Worlds, who are going to PYRAtlanta. Obviously, PYRAtlanta is still to be decided, but with Worlds, I do think that there's it is a bit of a larger. I mean, obviously, it is Worlds this time, not Worlds asterisk like it was in 2022, where it was separated into kind of more like a nationals. So it is in Singapore this time. COVID is finally, knock on wood, seeming to calm down a little bit. So just knowing that, you guys got any favorites for Worlds? Ethan, you got any names on your mind?
I think, and just hear me out because this is definitely a bold prediction. I think the winner of the World Championships will be the stacker who has the fastest combined overall. That means
here I am thinking you're going to say something serious.
Cycle. Is Chen Kang going to Worlds this year?
That's a good question. I have to imagine he is, because I think Singapore's a little bit in that region, but I could be very wrong.
Yeah, again, he's just undeniable. I haven't really kept up with like who all is going to Worlds, but if he is going to Worlds, then yeah, Chen Kang.
You okay there?
Who's going from the U.S. like fast stackers?
That is a great question. I'm pretty sure Peter Ford is going, because he's talked about it 85 different times. Worlds in Singapore. He's made it his own meme now, which I love. I think Peter's going. I think Seamus is going as well. I think Evan and Trey are both maybe going. I'm not your WSA representative here. I would not know the full list, but there are quite a few different US stackers going. I know that much. I think another exciting topic for me every single year, and the thing that always like draws me to liking to watch Worlds and Worlds coverage, is International Challenge. That's always the most exciting event to me, because you get to see the nations competing against each other, and it's not like always, even though the US has like the majority of the stackers, and even you could say a majority of the fastest stackers, there's always those those teams that just randomly come up and whoop the US's butt. I remember Worlds 2017, I got mollywopped around by Chen Kang before he was cool. But yeah, Worlds and PYRAtlanta are going to be big tournaments in deciding, who gets the benefits later on. And all I'm going to say about this as well is that we may or may not be having another, how do I say this? We may or may not be having another big reason that you want to be competing in the PYRA Marquee tournaments, because there's going to be something pretty big that if all goes well down the line, you're going to want to see. But Ethan and I have been talking a lot about, PYRAtlanta, Worlds, all these topics, but we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk about our guest, William Orrell. We've barely given you any time to talk here, But one of the big things we like to do when we have these podcasts is talk about the stackers themselves and kind of more talk about the upbringing of the origin story for you guys. So, Orrell, we're gonna give you some time here. We want to ask, how did you get started in cup stacking? Like, what are your origins? How did you like find out about competitions? Like, where did this start for you?
Yeah, so where I began, I learned it back in elementary school PE. I was probably about 7 or 8, and I latched onto it pretty quick when I learned it. My friends and I would just like race at it. And my PE teacher, she had a sports stacking club, so we all joined that. We do that like every Thursday morning or something like that. And my next door neighbor and I, we would just practice and practice and practice. I remember just practicing on the floor for hours because I used to prefer just practicing on the floor and watching the Speed Stacks DVD on my big fat TV, just over and over
Good
again.
old
Reruns
times.
of it while stacking, yeah. And I remember watching, I think it was Worlds 2007 on TV with my friend, and or it was Worlds 2000. Yeah, it was 2007, I think, because we saw Timo's 211. We were just like so stoked about it. We thought it was so awesome. And, you know, I was so inspired by that because that day I got my record of 3.17, and I thought that was so fast.
I think that would have been world class back then.
Well, he had to be under 3 seconds according to the
Oh,
instruction book, so
you're
not
close.
quite world class. Yeah, but we just did it all the time, and I started going to more tournaments. Like my first real big tournament, I would say, was the Southeast Regionals 2010. Because up till, well, actually no, I went to Worlds 2009 and just like did terrible. I had like a terrible three. I made it into all 3 finals barely, but then in 333 I choked, 363 I choked, but then cycle I got a decent time. I mean, that shows you that like I originally was very bad under pressure. Like in tournament, I was always way worse than I was in practice. So I wasn't really on the board for a long time, but 2010 when I went to my first big successful tournament where I realized I was really good. That was the Southeast Regional down in Georgia, because Georgia's basically been my home for stacking, it seems like. That's where like I've set so many world records, where I've met so many friends, had so many good tournament experiences, and still on to today, going on like 14 years. But that was my first big victory because I was there with a bunch of Team USA people. And like I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to win, but I'm just going to do my best. And then I beat them all somehow and got first overall. And that got me onto Team USA pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, that big tournament. So then from there, you know, it's been history from there. My first divisional world record in 2011. Pretty happy about that. And then 2012 is when I got pretty serious because that's when I first got my cycle fast on the web. I got 530 and began to realize I really could be the best. And then, of course,
that also the same year you got the? Sorry for interrupting. Is this the same year you got the 584 when you tied with the, or was it the 583 with a Chandler?
Yeah, so that was like right before. Yeah, I think I got the 525 like right before that tournament or something.
Oh man, is that where you probably would have begun to thought like, okay, not only am I like really, really good at this and I'm competing with all of these guys, I might actually be like the best. Like where did that begin to materialize for you?
Well, I think one of the big turning points for me was probably prelims at the Southeast Regional in 2012. Because in prelims I beat all 3 overall world records at the time.
Wow.
If you don't count Juway's 196, because I got 159, world record at the time was 163. I got 203. So technically the world record was 206 if you don't count the timer glitch. And cycle had a 577. So like because in prelims I wasn't very nervous because it doesn't
who
mean
cares?
anything. So it showed what I could really do if like I wasn't nervous at all and just had no pressure on me, that I could just beat all 3 world records like that. And I think that definitely woke me up a lot, that I could do it, but I was always still so nervous. But then in finals, of course, got that 586, and then from there I just started like breaking records all over the place because I got past that mental block.
Yeah.
You know, I could do it.
I wanted to ask, because you're probably, I mean, hearing about the nerves even building up at a younger time, for a lot of stackers, that's always been the Achilles heel, is the nerves are getting the better of me. I do so well in practice, I do so well in prelims, I do so well here and there, and then finals comes and I just blow it. how, I mean, have you really fully come over that? Do you still get the nerves to that level, or so even in the most like intense moments, you still have pretty strong nerves?
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely more present for cycle. For shorter stacks, I actually think I'm more consistent in tournament
Mm-hmm.
because it's more about speed. I know that I can't hesitate, and it's more just like going for it. But then when it's something like cycle, um, something longer where there's just more to it, I get a little more nervous. But yeah, I would say over the years, I've definitely gotten way less nervous
Mm-hmm.
than I was years ago, especially because I've already got all my goals. It doesn't really matter as much to me because I really wanted that. Like, pretty much my goals are just to, like, have all the world records at once, which I was able to achieve, win a world championships, which I achieved, get the first 4-second cycle in tournament, which I achieved. So I pretty much got all the big goals that I wanted. So like I don't get as nervous nowadays, but I still get nervous because I know I can beat records, and it's intense trying to go for those. I do think too, one thing I noticed at juniors, I think one thing that definitely benefited me there, I like cold weather a lot more. It was like really cold at the venue. And so I think that's why I did so good. Just a little fact there.
Little buff there. Just drink that cold water down. The colder, the better.
Yeah, so I love cold showers. I love sitting out in the cold and reading. It's just like, I think just the fact that it was a colder climate there and I could like control my body temperature, like I would jog just a little bit, like right before I went up. I wasn't overheating or anything. That's why I was able to get like all 3 national records in SOC.
Yeah,
So
there you
it was
go.
like the perfect feel for me. Yeah, but sometimes it's those little things too as an athlete. Like you've got to try to get yourself to like a good state of homeostasis. Like often between finals, I'll go to the bathroom and like splash myself with like tons of cold water because that like the evaporative cooling you get from that will calm me down. And because I'm usually pretty hot when I'm stacking and when I
Mhm.
get nervous, and sweating. So it's just like I do little things like that to just calm myself down between finals and then go up and just try my best to clear my mind and let my hands do what they need to do. So
I love that. It's a very almost like a meditative way in a weird way of like getting yourself in the mental focus and in the mental state of not having as many of the nerves. And I was going to ask you, obviously you've achieved basically everything there is to achieve in the terms of the stacking world. I guess one question would be, do you feel like there's still anything you have yet to achieve? And then the other being, if not, if you feel like you kind of have achieved everything there is to achieve, what is that motivation, that drive to keep you always coming back to these tournaments, always keep proving yourself, or in the sense of not even having to prove yourself? What keeps you motivated to keep coming back for stacking as somebody as accomplished as you are?
I just like hanging out with my friends and stuff. I don't take the competition too seriously. Like usually the day of, like when I'm going up for finals and stuff, I try to concentrate. I try to put myself in a perfect state. But I'm not even too nervous nowadays when I'm up there compared to
Mm-hmm.
before. I'm usually feel a lot more comfortable once I have like a safe attempt in. I know I'm getting into SOC. Then from there I can kind of just go for it. And I don't really shake as much in tournaments anymore like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big aspect. And I think it also shows that I've gotten way better with nerves in tournaments because I used to almost never get good times on third attempts. But over the last few years, I've gotten really good at like having a high success rate on third attempts. Like at juniors 2019, I almost failed cycle, but on the third attempt got a 536. Or on at nationals this last year, nationals last worlds, I only had a 5.9 going into my third attempt, and then got a 5.5. Or like at juniors, my third attempt for 363 was a national record. My third attempt for cycle was a national record.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I used to get really nervous by the time it got to like the last try, but I've gotten really good at just controlling that and making something happen when it counts. It used to be the
Right.
opposite. It used to be when it counted, I always would like choke. But now like when it counts, I'm really good at just putting it out there.
Yeah, and that's a really good way of like, I mean, looking at it. You have a lot of these like smaller details. Do you think in another way it could also be just be the addition of to the repetition of being in so many tournaments, breaking all of these records, knowing that you've done all this? Do you think that in its own element helps you continue to like? Does that help with the nerves a little bit? like just having done it so often and so many times and have been to all of these areas? Do you think that helps?
Yeah, I would say it helps, especially at tournaments like juniors where I know I've won so many times and that I have a pretty high probability of not messing up. Um, and I think it's too that I failed at some tournaments early on, especially, and I see all the missed opportunity that I had. So now I'm much more strategic about it because it took me so many years. Like I could have won Worlds 2011 and I didn't do very good. I could have won Worlds 2012, didn't do very good. Could have won Worlds 2013, did mediocre. And then like finally in Worlds 2015, I'm just like, you know, I have to like just have to do it now. And, you know, I pretty much just won all 5 events somehow because like I was just really desperate. I really, really wanted it. I really, really cared about it. I think that just like over the years, failing so much has motivated me now and showed me like, okay, I've sort of got a hang for what doesn't work, what psychs me out. Now I have all sorts of strategies that prevent that. Like I know the most important thing for me to do on day 1 of a tournament is always to be the first one to go up for prelims. Because if I wait, I'm just gonna get nervous. I'm gonna choke.
You're gonna overthink it.
Yeah, and you're just gonna put so much stress on yourself the first day of the tournament, and the 2-day tournament's already stressful enough. So just putting so many nerves on yourself, you know, you're still gonna be feeling that day too. It's better to just like show up maybe 30 minutes before prelims. Just do like 30 minutes of practice, go up, get it over with. Like everything in a tournament, I just think get it over with as quickly as possible because practicing it out, you're just gonna overdo it. You're gonna get nervous.
Yeah. What do you think about do you think that there's a contrast to the level of nerves that you get in comparison from like the timed events where you walk up to the table, you time yourself, you go when you go, versus maybe like head-to-head competition? Obviously, you haven't experienced as much individual head-to-head competition because it's been mostly online, but for like even like the team events for like international challenge or like any head-to-head like relays and stuff, do you think the nerve there or just the energy, does it feel any different for you?
Yeah, I'm way better at head-to-head, I feel like, because I know exactly how fast I need to go. It doesn't really require a lot of thought. Like if somebody's like, say, a little bit ahead of me going a certain pace, I can usually gauge exactly how fast I need to go. Whereas like at a Marquee tournament for finals, I won't really know exactly what times I need to make it into Stack of Champions. So like I always have to go a little bit faster than I want to have to go. Things like that. Like there's much less strategy to it, and there's just much more adrenaline, and I can psych out the competition too. So
it helps. It helps that you're, you know, where you are.
Yeah. So international challenge is definitely, I feel like, my greatest strength because I can like go up there, just put everything else out of mind, and just do one cycle really well. And I can make that happen under pressure.
As somebody who's been on a couple of different like relay teams and rosters with you, I remember specifically there was a JRO challenge. I think it was 2017. You and I were on a team with a couple of other very like admittedly underrated stackers. And I just like, I remember being like, wow, we're just getting carried because you would like, we would be like a full stacker behind. You would walk up to the table, you'd knock out like a 5.2 and we'd somehow be like either like tied or in the lead again. And like you always found that way. And I think when it comes to the international challenge and just like any sort of like head-to-head competition, especially head-to-head relay, you have always been like the most terrifying aspect to go against. Like I know if it's like it was like Worlds or something and we had to go against your team, I was just like, okay, great. So this can be done with pretty quickly because you've always been so good with that.
I think that's too why I ended up moving up to 3rd in the relay instead of last, because like I can definitely, if we're behind, I'm really good at like catching up.
Yeah.
And other people just get nervous in the middle. Like if they have to make a comeback, then they're going to choke. They're going to try to go too fast. Whereas for me, it's like, okay, I know, don't go all out. That's what you do if you're like last and there's like no hope.
Yeah.
You can maybe go all out. But you never go all out in the middle. You always just go like pretty fast and enough to catch up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that you're also one of the few people that's like, strategically when it comes to like even like time relays, you've always had a very good mind for like, if for some reason, for whatever reason would be that you wouldn't, you stop stacking for whatever reason, I could see you being like one of the better, or just straight up one of the best like relay team coaches like that would be around, because you have a very good like mind about that. I remember back to I think it was Wills and Not Wills that we were teaming up. It was my first time going first, and you kept all of us in such a good mindset. By the way, sorry about that, because I threw that entire relay. It was my first time going like first in a relay, because I wanted Paulie to be in his stronger position. He's usually pretty strong when he goes second. You have a very good mind of the structure to relay teams, and to an extent where it's surprising that the world record for 363 relay is where it is, because I think that you have a good way of reflecting your idea for the relays and like how to pace yourselves and how each role should work, who's starting, who's in the middle, who's finishing, that type of thing. You have a really good mind to that.
Thanks. I try my best. I mean, I've been on the international challenge team since 2010. So like I've been doing this for a while.
You got your reps in.
Yeah. I've learned how not to do it. At Worlds 2010, every time I went up, I just fumbled, I messed up, I was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But then in 2011 is when I kind of learned, okay, I'm going first. I'm just going to go for like a 7 flat cycle every single time. And I made very few mistakes because I just learned, okay, be consistent and let the other guy mess up.
Yeah. Shout outs to John Scannell in chat. Flashbacks of juniors 2015 when my team gave me 3 leads against Willie, but I lost all but one of them. Yeah, John. Feel that. Let's move on to our next topic. That was a great insight, by the way, of just like the way that you've energized yourself almost in a lot of these tournaments, and how you keep a level mind. And I think it's going to be really good for a lot of other stackers hearing that even somebody as well endowed with achievements as you are, that even recently you still get the nerves here and there. So I think that's a great confidence boost for everybody. Like even Orrell is getting the nerves and he's still popping out world record after world record, anything is possible. It's a good way of looking at it.
I was really nervous over the years, so I was setting all those world records, but despite shaky hands, I was still doing it. So it's possible.
The next topic I wanted to talk about is specifically with you, because you've experienced a lot of both, is the difference in the online tournaments versus the in-person tournaments. Obviously, you've had a lot of experience with PYRA tournaments, PYRA Cup All-Stars, PCS Double Down, which were both online. And then in person, you've been an absolute titan in that field with majority of your in-person tournaments. I wanted to ask, as somebody who's experienced both in attempt-based formats for online and for head-to-head formats for both online and in-person, do you feel that there is like a stark difference between the competitions in the basis of the nerves and the basis of just the environment? Like, when you compete in both of these, how do you gauge the difference? Do you gauge it at all?
For head-to-head, I definitely think I would say it's easier because I know exactly how fast I need to go based on how the other stacker is going. And I don't know, the intimidation factor too. And then for like, I guess it's a much different aspect for just like when you're doing the stacks individually, because I'm often just going for records and stuff like that for best in tournament. Whereas if I'm against somebody and I know the type of times they're consistently putting up, I know exactly how fast they need to go, and I'm not just like going all out. It's just a whole different game. It's about consistency rather than speed.
Right. So. And I mean, that's also coming from one of, if not the most consistent stackers in the world, especially when it comes to your craft. Ethan, I actually wanted to bring this up to you because you've also, in a way, experienced a little bit of both. Obviously, you were on the analyst desk for Double Down, so you didn't experience it in that light. But for the online and in-person environment, how do you see it? Because I think that you're somebody with a pretty good mind when it comes to both structures of it.
I've never really competed like online, at least not in something that was like formally structured. A while back, me and a friend, we did like I think it was like a 64-man bracket, which ended up being very disorganized, and we canceled it within like 2 days because again, just
well, I'm glad I'm giving you another tournament to host then.
Yeah, but no, I can imagine actually being there in the moment. It might present a bit more of a challenge compared to stacking at home, where you're really in the comfort of where you normally stack. And nobody's really judging you, like where they
You don't
would
have the
be in
eyes on you.
person. Yeah, you don't. It's not nearly as much of like it's just a lot more comforting, I guess. Then again, I mean, when you compete online, especially if the tournament is live streamed, you may still feel a little bit of peer pressure, just because
Everybody's watching you from a different angle.
Yeah, right. They may not necessarily be watching you in person, but people still have people still have their own computers, and they may be viewing it from afar. So, yeah, I mean, personally, I know for a fact that were I to compete online, whether that be through PYRA or through a different organization, I would perform miles better at home than I would in person. It really is a different ball game when you're actually there physically.
Right. I asked this because I wanted to bring up a personal perspective as well. You guys may remember the age-old days of Stacking League back in 2018. I guess even partially in 2019. It was mainly 2018. Stacking League was very similar to kind of what Pyro Cup All-Stars was. It was an online mini tournament. It was more of a show than it was a tournament. And before I was casting it, I was actually competing in it a little bit. There was like 4 initial competitors. I think it was myself, Kaylee Diedrich, Peter, and Josh McKenzie, I think it was. I think that was the core 4. And I remember the first time I did that online tournament, it felt like it was like just as nerve-wracking in a weird way as like an in-person tournament was, even though it was entirely online. And then you did like I did the next one like a couple of days later, and I felt nothing. Like it was like the nerves just completely weren't there because it was such a regular thing that, and because it was online, there was only going to be so many people watching it. Who really cares that much? Especially because it was all, again, more angled as a show. The nerves were very, very minimal as time went on. I guess in a way you're still competing against each other, but like with online, the other problem is being in sync with the other person you're competing against. You only get to see them off the basis of like your phone screen or your computer screen or something like that. So you don't even know how they're doing against you because you can barely see them. So you have to play your own game at times, and it's a bit of a different environment there. But
that's why I'm way better at heads up in person than online, because I literally have no idea how fast to go.
Yeah. I've improved quite a lot since I was in Stacking League. Yeah, Betsy, you definitely have. You were actually, Betsy was one of the, I think, the later additions to Stacking League. I remember because I was casting it for that brief period in time. The only reason why I ever got confident enough to cast my own tournaments is because I casted Stacking League. So, I gotta thank Stacking League for that a little bit. But let's move on to our next topic. Orrell, because you are our guest host here, you have been pretty infamous with sticking to your guns with the Gen 5. And it was kind of most infamous at PCS Double Down because, as a reminder, most people, you do not have to use speed stacks, equipment, cups, mats, timers if you have something else that fancies you. And I'm not saying that as like, I hate them. It's just, choose what you want to use. Orrell, you have stuck tried and true not only the Gen 5, but 4-pad Gen 5 specifically. And I wanted to bring that up more in the context of future tournaments and stuff, because you were one of the very early adopters of Gen 5. What was your experience with Gen 5 early on, and what's kept you sticking to it? Is it just the fact that, with the WSA tournaments, you have to use it, so you might as well use it across the board? Or, what was the long-term plan for you with Gen 5?
I guess, starting off, it was the new requirement, so I needed to adjust to it. And getting fast on the webs with it was pretty easy early on, so that kind of motivated me, getting new records and stuff. And I guess I've stuck with it because it seems a lot more legitimate than the other timers, because it's impossible to judge whether people are holding the cups while stopping the timer with the old timer. Plus, with the old timer, it's all about just getting your hands as close to the cups as possible, starting and stopping. So it's less about just gaming stacking, and it's more about like just actually how fast can you do it. And starting and stopping the timer isn't like a strategic thing. Like I start it in a way that people don't think is very efficient. Like I have my fingers all the way back on the pads. I don't have them close to the cups or anything like that.
I was gonna say that because I think didn't you use that same type of like way of starting the cups previously? Like isn't that how you kind of used to start with your hands, or am I misgauging it?
Way long ago. Like if you look at, for instance, the video where Glad got his 193 360 fast on the web at Worlds 2010, you can see me starting the timer like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I used to start it for the longest time. So I think it's the most consistent start for me.
I mean, that I guess that is in a way its own buff. The reason why I bring that up is obviously once more of the PYRA in-person tournaments, once those become more prevalent, the idea is to have like a specific table for a majority of the equipment that we're going to use, and then the equipment that we imagine other stackers are going to want to use. In fact, for Atlanta, one of the things I actually have to prep is a table that is dedicated to Gen 5 alone, as to that's what most stackers are going to use. And it's the question of, do we tell them, you know, you can start it whichever way you want, or like more specifically, do we start it in 4-pad mode and then let them change it to 2-pad mode if they want? Or like, because if people are going to use the timer, but they want to use it in 2-pad mode, but there are going to be some people that change it, we almost don't want like people to trip over themselves with that table. So that's like a logistical thing we're going to have to figure out. And by we, I mean Ethan. So that'll be fun. Just throwing that onto you there, Ethan.
Thanks, Kian.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. But that's also really good insight, because I had always kind of remembered, even if it was longer ago, it was kind of seeing you always starting either like this or like starting flat. So
I hated having to switch because I saw my consistency go down a lot, but like especially for 3D3 and 360, you had to do it because it just saved way too much time.
Right.
So it's nice to be able to go back to like just a flat start.
Right. And I guess in a way I could see like the even playing field, even if I don't agree with the execution of how it was implemented. I can understand at least the idea behind it.
Yeah, I hated losing all those divisional world records. I lost like 12 to 14 or something.
Oh my God.
Over the years.
I'd be a little bit more than upset. I would be, I'd be lawsuit ready. Like, give me my times back.
Yeah, I mean, they're legacy records, whatever that means, so I'll take that. I'm not bitter about it. I get that they have to do it if they want to be a legitimate sport, so doing what they just have to do. Yeah,
and actually, this is something I wanted to bring up to you now with Gen 5, and just now with you here as well. You have seen a majority of the sports peak of where stacking has gone. I mean, people said that a 4.5 just wasn't possible back in like 2014, 2015, like that would be the absolute best we could go. And now I think you've gotten what, like a 447?
443.1 is my best right now.
Your best period time or your best scratch?
My best time.
Clean. Your best time. This is how up to date I am, by the way, guys. But I mean, 443 is absolutely absurd. I mean, it just in so many different, like even physical like embodiments of the thought of it. So coming from the guy that is far and away the best cycle stacker in terms of speed, where do you think the peak is right now for how fast, I mean, like, let's say cycle could go? Do you think there is a peak at all, or do you think it's just something we're going to continue to find ways to beat?
There's definitely a peak. I mean, at least for somebody who's specialized in stacking, I would say, and then did like optimally all the different side activities that would develop the variations of hand-eye coordination and the endurance and practice you would need to get good, and optimal body type and everything, optimal genes, whatever, the whole package. You could probably get down to like a 4.1 with regulars, I would think. I mean, I'm not like a specialist stacker anymore. Like, I think one thing I've noticed is that doing stuff like powerlifting and stuff, that definitely slows me down. Running speeds me up. So different things like that you do, you kind of have to make trade-offs. It's like, well, I could, you know, just go hard on running and just maybe run like 40 miles a week, and I get way better at stacking, get faster times. But I mean, I have other things in life I want to do. Other sports I like, so I'm not going to just like specialize. If somebody truly just hard specialized and did like all the optimal things to get good at stacking, like definitely low 4.2, 4.1 at least, I guess.
That is a good guess. So what I'm hearing is No sub 4-second cycle.
I don't think with regular cups it's possible. With something like shorties or different proportions, it's barely possible, I would say.
That, man, it
'Cause,
just
I
the
mean,
thought of that.
Yeah, it's just the proportional aspect. Like if you have a much shorter height to like width ratio,
Mhm.
you could definitely have a 3, like for sure, with someone who just
Ratio.
just doesn't have a life and just like only stacks with like those kind of cups. Maybe
Right.
get like a 3.
So what I'm
You know?
hearing is Mike McCoy's he's got a shot.
Yeah, he's got a shot if he gets a 5 every day for a year, then gets a 4 every day for a year, then the next year gets a 3 every day for a year. Checks out.
Checks out. Well, Ethan, I guess I'll toss this over to you on terms of the sports peak, at least for the argument of cycle. We've seen a lot of arguments about it. We've seen Orrell break a lot of those arguments. So now that you've heard his stance on it, do you agree? Do you think it can go even further? Where do you see it?
Well, it was certainly very eye-opening because, William, I think you more than anybody are probably the most qualified to speak on it. I don't really understand sports medicine. I've never really studied it. I can't really speak on, the limits of human capability. What I will say is, there is a pattern in terms of, how much we have moved the goalposts. For example, there was a period in time where people thought, a 6-second cycle was impossible. When someone achieves a 6, I think Yannick Zitlau achieved the first 6. Okay, well, a 5-second cycle is impossible. And Steven came around. A 4, no way, it's not happening. And then Mr. William here did just that. But I do also think it would be unreasonable to assume that we could just keep getting faster and just indefinitely just keep getting faster. I do think that there is a physical limit to how fast we can actually stack. How fast that is, I have no idea. I think William is pretty much on the nose with it. I would probably say, like a 4.1, maybe like a high 4.0 might be possible. A 3 is really pushing it, honestly, because again, there's just even, and William was just talking about this, even with like the most optimized style of stacking, even if somebody were to dedicate their like whole lives and every waking moment to stacking, I just couldn't see it happening, at least not with regular cups. Andrew Dale has definitely kind of pushed the envelope with shorties, but with regulars, it's probably just asking a bit too much.
Yeah. And those are two really solid arguments. And John Scannell made a really good point. He brought up somebody else's comment. I think the physical limit is 5.85. Someone in the comments section on one of Steven's videos years ago. So we have pretty regularly been wrong about where the limit is because it's just been a matter of time until somebody breaks that limit. And I think it makes sense to say that the argument is, it makes sense to say that, a 4.1 is, the peak of what we can do right now. Because
yeah, I'd also add to that. I mean, you can go really speculative about it. Like with my knowledge of like psychology, at least from what I've read, like studies, like if you teach rats like a maze, and then they have kids, then they could do the maze faster. There's definitely a lot of intergenerational memory. I mean, one day when like really fast stackers are having kids, you never know like how much of that memory.
Oh yeah, if like the genes pass down type of thing.
Yeah, so I think that definitely, depending on how hard that like motor memory stays, then if you like have some fast stackers that have kids, then they might be good enough to get a 3 just because of like they've already been a little bit preset for that, and or even just a few generations down. I think it's physically possible, but it would take some pretty crazy combination of factors.
Yeah, it would have to be beyond a pretty crazy combination of factors. It would have to be somebody who has dedicated basically their life's mission of this most optimized path of stacking in some form of every single day, of finding ways to meticulously improve themselves to push the barrier out of like a sub 4-second cycle.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's as radical to get a sub 4 with a different size of cup. I think the issue is just with the size we have now, because there's just
Mhm.
so much physical distance, you have to move the cups up.
Right.
If you have something like shorties, and then it's maybe even a more optimal proportion, and somebody grinds with that. Like if I grinded with shorties for a few months, I could probably get a 4.2, but like I have better things to do than grind with shorties.
Right, yeah. And
But
I think
like
somebody in chat said that Andrew Dale has like
it's like a
multiple
4.3s, yeah.
yeah, like a 1.1 in 333, which we all like
Yeah,
ridiculous.
crazy. So yeah, I mean, with different size cups, there's more potential. I definitely think a 3 is very doable with a different proportion. Wouldn't be near as hard, but once again, it's just someone who doesn't really have anything better to do.
Well, that sounds like Andrew Dale, all right. No. Jokes aside, it's always an interesting thought process to see where the sport can go, at least physically, with the peaks of a lot of these different events. Because, like, if you had told me, you know, a 1.1 or even like a sub 1 second 333, that sounds, even now, that sounds impossible. Ethan, you have something on the tip of your tongue, though.
Yeah, actually, William, that was something I wanted to ask you as well. You know, since you've spoken about cycle, likewise, do you think that do you have any idea of what the limits for the 333 and 363 might be? Maybe like a 1.1, maybe like a 1.4 or something?
Yeah, since I'm not as good at like 333 or 363, I mean, definitely at my peak, I probably could have hit, pretty close to where the fast on the webs are now, except for 363. I could probably have hit it on 333 at my peak when I was scratching like 127s and stuff. I'd say the limit would probably be, if I had to guess with regular cups, it's just pure speculation. With someone who like committed their life to it, like a low, like around a 110 for 333 and around like maybe a 145 for 363.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That's just a guess, though. I don't have any clue for those
Hey, this
two.
is
I think
all a
I'm
guess.
just.
That's the
Your
whole
guess
fun of
is
it.
your guess is as good as mine.
What do you think?
I think the fastest time is the fastest possible time with cybernetic enhancements would be 1,000th of a decimal of a second. That's my best guess.
See, here's the thing. Here's the thing about that, because that sounds like a joke. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that in the way of like cubing, where it's like you had a little bit with the cubers, you had a little bit more of an answer because you could see these AI like machines, they would get a scrambled cube, fix it less than a second. So that told people, okay, well, if it's possible for AI, it's possible for humans technically. It's not doable now, but how long until it is? You know, how long until somebody's, you know, intelligent enough to make that happen and has the right scramble and the situation for it. And obviously we don't really have a scenario where we can make that with like some form of AI until we get like a Detroit Become Human level of AI that is perfect in every way, shape, and form. And can like actually,
motion.
yeah,
the fluid motion, all the little hand muscles and stuff. That would be very hard to simulate perfectly with something like stacking. It would just be incredible to do that.
exactly. And that's kind of that was the mindset of thinking that. But let's move on to another topic here. And this one is actually just more of a fun topic because we've had some serious topics here and there. But Orrell, you have been to so many tournaments. You have been to, I mean, it feels like when I think about stacking, I think about you in a way because you've just been to everything and you've won mostly everything as well. That helps. So I wanted to ask you, of all of the tournaments you have been to over the years, which one would you say is your favorite? And just because, of course, we know it's going to be one of the PYRA tournaments. Of course, it's going to be one of those. We won't count those, of course. No, I'm completely being an ass. So, Orrell, this spotlight's on you. What tournament would you say is your favorite? Has been your favorite?
I don't think I can really say that I have a favorite. I would say it's evolved over the years, like way back when I was just somebody who was like way more competitive and serious. And as a beginner especially too, my favorite tournaments were always just the Worlds because I mean it was always so big and grand. Like back when they first had it back in 2009 when I first went, I think it was in the Colorado Coliseum or whatever, Denver
Mm-hmm.
Coliseum. And it's just like so big, grand, people from all over the world all kinds of people just like me who are crazy about stacking and just hanging out, meeting so many cool people, and just competing in something so high stakes. I just loved going to Worlds, like Worlds 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. I just loved every single one of them.
Okay, let me put it in different words. If we put all of the tournaments that you've been to on a cliff and you could only save one, no, I would guess, would you say that in the terms of the amount of that you've done it? Like, if we had to list one type of tournament, would you say that Worlds would be the answer for you?
It's tough. It'd be either Worlds or Juniors.
Worlds or Juniors.
I mean, I'd say it would probably. I mean, I haven't been to as many Worlds over the last few years, though. 'Cause, I mean, I've only been to like 2015, 2016, 2018, like true Worlds. I literally have only been to like 3 in the last 10 years. So
that's crazy to think about, because I was in 2 of those, and just to think that I've been to 2 out of your 3, just considering 2020 and until then, you know, with COVID and everything.
Yeah, so I haven't really been active at Worlds recently, so it'd be hard for me to say whether I really like Juniors more than Worlds, but I think I've liked it a lot recently just because all my friends are there. I get to hang with them. I love just the Hotlanta and the Juniors just because I get to see my friends and have fun. So I'd say lately those are my favorite tournaments.
Right. I guess even though this question was phrased towards William, we might as well ask, Ethan, do you have a favorite tournament in mind? And no, you can't say PYRAtlanta.
That is a very good question. You know, in the past I would have said Worlds 2018 hands down, and I'd still probably say it is, but you know, I also had a lot of fun at like Juniors 2019, for example. That was just a really fun weekend hanging out with Nate and his family. Greensboro is such a nice region too. Like, it was a very underrated juniors location and venue as well.
I was just there last night.
You were?
Yeah, it's always going to Greensboro.
Yeah, the one thing about Greensboro was because I didn't have a car, like walking to and from places, it was super hot. But I think that was also just because it was during the summertime, and naturally it's just a lot hotter. But yeah, just going to Waffle House with Josh and Josh K, mind you, and again spending a lot of time with Nate. Yeah, it was a really fun weekend. Although also, even though I didn't compete, and Kian, I'm sure, can probably attest to this as well. But Hotlanta last year was just so much fun.
Oh yeah, bro.
That was such a blast.
Yeah. I feel like I'm always going to have a little bit of bias when it comes to my favorite tournament. Ethan listed a lot of really good options. Like, I guess if I were to call from like each era in a way, like picking an actual favorite is really, really hard to think about just because of all of the experiences I've gone through. I've gone through a little bit more experience-wise. Favorite WSA tournament by far, though, I think I have to give it hands down to Worlds 2018. Just the environment there, the culture, the atmosphere, all the people you get to see. And I think just kind of like it is in a way a local tournament. It was so energizing because all of the U.S. stackers were there, and it did feel like you weren't too far away from home, because you weren't. I mean, for most stackers, you were in Florida. And then after that, like I'd say after like obviously me not being able to go to WSA tournaments, like there were a couple of other standouts for me. Going to Arnold Sports Festival in Australia was an absolute blast. Like here, let me tell you guys. Let me tell all of you right now. I don't care what tournaments you go to. I don't care about where you go in your life. If you ever get the chance to go to Melbourne, Australia, go. It is beautiful there. I was shell-shocked. It was amazing there. I had so many negative stigmas about and like negative opinions about Australia from what I'd heard on the internet. It was amazing. It was such a fun time. The Australians were super polite there. It was a very culturally diverse place. That was also very surprising for me. I guess I was in one of the bigger landscapes of Australia, and to be fair, but it was amazing. Absolutely recommend going down there sometime. And another huge recommendation would be Oceanside, California. Getting to go to the Oceanside Sports Festival, or I think that's what it's called. Excuse me. the Samoan Festival, excuse me, in Oceanside, California. It was off the tip of my tongue there, but culturally, that was a lot of fun, and just going there every single year. I mean, you meet all the people. It feels like almost like a family reunion in a way, because you know everybody that's going to be there, but it's so like comforting and welcoming. It feels like all of the stress is off the table already. You just get to go out and have fun. And yeah, those are two tournaments that I have to recommend very highly alongside Worlds 2018. So with that in mind, we have reached the end of the topics for this PYRAcast, and we've moved on to everybody's favorite game. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk Guess That Stacker. I have to eventually get like a cool intro for that. But we've done it every single episode, William. I'm not sure if you know how this works. How it works is simple. Ethan is usually the one that leads the charge here, but we each think about one stacker and their specific performance from a tournament. It cannot be ourselves. We made that a rule now. If you want to take some time to like look it up somewhere, you're more than welcome to. But we each take one stacker, their performance from either some tournament or performance overall, and we have a limited amount of guesses to figure out who that stacker is. So
do we say like the tournament and the times, or just the times, or what?
So we can say the tournaments and the times, and then we have specific like guesses as to what that stacker has also achieved. So like, if it were you, for example, and it was like juniors 2018 or something, and I got your overall, my first question would be, did they win this tournament? Yes or no? Have they gotten a world record? Yes or no? And just like other attributes about who the person themselves is. All right. So
could I just name like one time they got at a tournament or something? Or
sure.
It have to be like
it can be one time. It can be an overall.
That's fine. Yeah.
You can list the event if you want to as well. So we're gonna give everybody a quick moment to look up their answers whilst these guys are doing that. We'll look at some questions in the chat. From Anton in chat, this is for you, Orrell. When did you get your 4.525 off tape? I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll let you answer it.
Atlanta 2017.
Atlanta 2017. Woo! That's crazy to think that was almost 6 years ago now.
I also got the fastest cycle with a fumble off tape. I got a 468 with the Mason 593 fumble like right before.
Oh man. That is incredible. Ethan, do you have something ready? Push duck.
Yes, I do. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, Ethan is going to go first. Ethan, whenever you're ready, he's going to list us the clues. We get to ask yes or no questions, and he will eventually call when time's up for if we have gotten it or not.
Alrighty. So this stacker is a particularly good friend of mine. We've been on many adventures together. 2017 was probably the best year of his stacking career. And this tournament was the magnum opus, so to speak, of his stacking career. The overall for this tournament, it was an 8.890.
Was it Nate Hara at Connorsville or something, or Ohio Valley?
So you got the name right. It is Nate, but it's the tournament.
St. Louis?
What's up?
That was the tournament guess. Was it St. Louis?
Oh no, not St. Louis. Sorry.
Tournament.
The cycle was 541.6, wasn't it?
Nope.
Something like that. Oh, it wasn't.
Oh,
Nope.
I think I remember this now.
Ohio Valley.
Oh man, I was just putting it together.
I said two tournaments. I'd say Connorsville and Ohio Valley. I figured it was probably Ohio.
No, I got you. But nope, not those guys.
All right. Orrell, do you want to go now, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll just throw one out there. I could probably give you a few. So at Worlds 2010, 11-year-old division, I got 684 in cycle. That got me second in the division. Somebody got 683, 0.01 ahead of me. Who was it? You'd know him by name.
Know him by name.
Know him by name.
He's in my age division. You got to think about that because back then there were only like.
Was he a well-known stacker
12.
in 2010?
I mean, how do you define well-known?
As in, wasn't his first ever appearance. People have seen him before.
I mean, he was in the top 100 videos and stuff, so he was around.
Chandler?
No, this is Worlds 2010. He wasn't on the scene until next year.
Chase.
No, he wasn't in my division. He's 1 year younger. They used to only do 1 year divisions back then.
Mason Langendorfer?
No.
Oh, God.
Come on, guys. Think who is in my division. Who would have beat me at 2010?
Oh, but you're so old.
No.
You're like 2 years older than me.
Luke Myers? No.
They're way older than me.
Yeah, it's
like
a couple years off.
Like
I'm sorry.
Do you guys give up?
Yeah.
It's Christian Davinsky.
Oh.
No.
Wait, is it Davinsky or Donevsky? I've been told.
Beans, man.
Oh, okay.
Beans, man.
Yeah, Donevsky, yeah.
Oh, man. All right. I got one. You guys ready? The tournament is Connecticut 2017. And this stacker, I believe, it's Connecticut 2017. This stacker, I'm not going to tell you the time, but the stacker was in 2 Stack of Champions, missed out on the 3rd, and it was the only reason why he wasn't automatically the winner of the tournament. Wait, you looked like you had a guess.
No, it's Tyler Hollis.
It's Tyler Hollis. You were so quick to that. And that is arguably the pettiest I have ever been about a tournament. Tyler Hollis was ahead of me in 2 out of the 3 events, and I couldn't catch up to him in either of them. He was far and away ahead. I was first overall up until that point. Cycle, I just barely kicked him out of SOC. I had 3 chances, completely blew SOC and lost the tournament because of it.
That actually reminds me, by the way, the answer to mine, Nate's best performance was at Big Apple 2017. That was the tournament that he stacked the 889 at. And I bring that up because Kian, I remember back for Big Apple, that was when I stayed at your house. And Kian and I had pretty high hopes for this tournament. And we both just bombed this tournament. Like we did really poorly at
I
Big
got a
Apple.
good 363. That was it.
He did get a good 363. He was in 363 SOC. Now at Connecticut, I had no expectations. Kian from the scenes, we were just kind of like, whatever, we'll just see what happens. And this was another tournament we went to together. And what I remember the most is just how surprised I was at how well Kian actually did. And I just remember on the car ride home, just all the trophies that he had from Connecticut 2017. And I was just like,
bro, I remember that. You know what I also remember? I remember, you're going to love this. After the tournament, I think this was after 2017. It may have been after 2018. I can't remember specifically. I'm pretty positive it was after 2017. We went to a very popular pizza place in Connecticut called Ethan, go ahead.
Mystic Pizza.
We actually went to Mystic Pizza. I was exhausted that day, and I because Ethan's parents took me, and I was exhausted that day. We get to Mystic Pizza. We had to wait 20 or 30 minutes or so for our food. I remember I am out. I am out cold on the right side. I'm sitting there on the glass, the glass window, because we were next to the window, and they're bringing us our food. And all I remember is, Kian, it's the Mystic Pizza. And I'm like, Mystic Pizza. It was just such a random moment, but it's something I always look back to. That was one of my favorite tournaments, too.
That was a really fun tournament. It was good pizza, too. Not as good as Seasons, but it was good pizza.
Yeah. Do we want to go for one more round? Sorry, go ahead.
I have another one.
You have another one? All right, go for it, William.
Okay. This is a very famous stacker. This is of course I didn't know him at the time, but this is the North Carolina 2009 state championships. Me and my doubles partner get second in doubles, and one guy and his brother beat me. One of them's a famous stacker. Who is it?
Was it Steven and Andrew?
No.
You said one of them was Samus, so that takes me off of Joel and Luke, because obviously they're both pretty established. You're still push talk.
Sorry, you said it was 2009.
Yeah, North Carolina State 2009 championships. Actually, let me think. Was it 2008? It was one of those two. It may have actually been the 2008 one. Or no, it was the 2009
This is
one.
how you know we gotten old. We can't even remember.
You said
But it's
brothers.
like, do you want me to give you a clue that's probably going to give it away, or you guys think you might be able to get it?
Let me fill this in. Go ahead.
Is it one of the Myers brothers by chance?
Nope.
No.
I'm trying to think of like famous brothers in the stacking community.
Is the stacker you're referring to a boy or a girl?
It's a boy.
Okay, it's a boy. Okay.
It's gonna be a big aha if you guys don't get it.
It is.
Or even if you do get it.
Trying to think. Who was cool back then?
Is it one of the Hagues? No, that would be one of the Hagues. No.
Too young.
Yeah.
You guys want a clue? That's
Yeah.
gonna be...
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. He was a world champion at one point.
Steven?
No, I already said
No.
Steven.
No.
Polly?
No. Come on, guys. He was a world champion.
We're
World
stupid.
He was
That's
at a North
very-
Carolina tournament. He was a world champion.
Was it you?
He was the only other person for North Carolina who has
Josh
been.
Josh
Yeah.
Chainsaw.
Obviously.
Bro, I don't know people from states. I don't know anything about states. I don't even know where I'm from.
Come on, guys. You should have been able
Well,
to.
when you said his brother, I'm like, I was like, Josh doesn't have a. Well, he does have a brother. I didn't know that he's stacked.
All right.
So that was the first time I'd encountered him, but at the time we didn't ever really talk or anything. It's funny that we crossed paths so early and then didn't cross again until later, till like 2012.
All right, I'm gonna pull up one more for me. Ethan, you got something?
Alex has guest.
What was that?
Alex Haas in the chat guessed Malcolm Richardson.
Oh, not Malcolm. Too far off there. Yeah. So yeah, Ethan, if you have another one, go ahead. I'm gonna look up mine real quick.
I guess I have another quick one you guys could try. I think it's true.
I think it's true.
I think there's been, at least I know of 2 people who have won 333 and 360 at Worlds and then like bombed cycle. So who are those 2 stackers and what years?
Could you repeat that for me one more time?
There are 2 stackers that I know of that have won 333 and 363 first overall at Worlds and then bombed cycle. What are the 2 stackers? What are the years?
Chandler Miller at Worlds 2013 and Kwanchai Kwang Radiacol. I hope I pronounced that right. No, not Kwanchai. Hyunjin Choi at Worlds 2017.
Okay, that makes 3 people actually that have done it.
Oh, shit.
I forgot that Wong Jung Choi did it.
No, because Kwanchai won Worlds 2017.
William Pauly, Worlds 2013?
No, because he failed 363.
Oh, damn it.
William Pauly, Worlds 2014.
Did he win 333 and 363 that year?
Oh, well, he didn't win those events. Sorry, I'm thinking just like did well in those events.
I have nothing.
Give up.
Ethan?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was me at Worlds 2016.
Oh.
No.
We said don't do yourself.
Oh, you said don't do yourself?
I mean, who cares? It's fine. So I have one. You guys ready? Okay. Worlds 2017, the stacker got a 9.776 overall and also clutched in International Challenge. That's all I'm giving you.
Wait, which year?
Worlds 2017.
Was it Peter?
It was not Peter.
No, that was like 2019, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. This was the one in Thailand.
Oh.
G-Way.
No, but you're warmer.
Josh?
Nope.
2017?
2017.
Was it Trey?
It was. You got it. Trey got 4th overall and is the only reason why we got anywhere at an international challenge.
That's fair.
All right. I think that concludes our segment of Guess the Stacker. Thank you all for playing. Nobody tallied the scores because the scores don't matter. Who cares? We're all winners at the end of the day. And quickly, before we go on to our final segment, huge thank you to Sin in the chat, $10.46 donation. And also, Simple Myers, I think, had a $2 or $3 USD donation. It's 10 AED. I'm not sure what that currency is, but thank you. Thank you for the support there. Much appreciated. And quick reminder, because he said in the message, sign up for PCS Atlanta. PyRa.com/apply. That aside, we're going to finish this off with a good old Q&A for William Orrell. Guys, if you have any questions for myself, for Ethan, or more specifically for our guest, William Orrell, now's the time to ask them. Put those questions in the chat. I will look through the chat and see if we have any. What is better, 9-cycle or 393 with shorties? I don't know what 393 is.
Can I choose neither?
Yeah.
9-cycle is way better. 393 with shorties is just...
I don't even know what 393 is. I assume that's what it sounds like.
Let's just say it was an event at juniors that I bombed and still got 2nd overall. Like, I literally failed the event and still somehow got 2nd.
That tells you a lot.
That was during Freestyle Friday, I think.
Yeah, like, I went up and just, like, literally failed every attempt. I'm like, well, I'm not going to get a good place. And then later figure out I got 2nd. It's like, okay. No, I'll take that.
All right. Question. Who do you guys think is the future of stacking, or, like, the up-and-coming, the next big stacker? Who wants to answer first and put their heads on the chopping block?
The next big one?
It's me.
I mean, I haven't seen him. I don't know. What is Tyler Fano? Has he been practicing lately? Because I used to think.
Oh, yeah. Tyler is a grinder.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll say him is at least one of them.
Yeah.
Other ones. I mean, who was the kid, Ching Kang Yu or something? The guy.
I thought you were about to say Chen Kang Ian. Yeah, he's really up and coming.
Like the guy who got 2nd at Worlds.
Shin Kang Yu?
Yeah.
I think that's how you say it.
He's probably an up-and-comer, too. I would say mostly Tyler Fano's, because like, he reminds me of me.
Yeah.
Like, when I used to grind, so...
Yeah. Tyler Fano,
Fano's
top 5, mind you. Top 5 in the world now in the Pyro Point rankings. Skyrocketed.
I think if he keeps grinding, if he kept grinding for a few years, he'd be the world #1, for sure.
I do have somebody who I think might come up the rankings pretty soon. He's actually in the same room as me.
It's Kirby, isn't it? Every single time we do anything in relation to Ethan, that Kirby plushie is right next to him. It's adorable.
It is cute. It is very cute.
I know, because I went to his place not too long back when we did our in-person PYRAcast, and it was the only thing he could talk about. Let's see. What do you guys think of Ryan Flores' comeback? I haven't heard much about Ryan Flores as of recently.
I'm out of the loop. And honestly, and this is going to sound a bit callous, but honestly, any comeback, quote unquote, that he has, I have to take with a grain of salt, because it's been a recurring trend at this point that he's faked times. And I'm sorry, but like, there's just a certain point where I can't really trust anything that he sets anymore. I don't dislike Ryan. I have nothing against him. It's just like, maybe that's just me being bitter or unfair, but like, I mean, can you really blame me? Because some of them looked very convincing, but were very well faked.
Yeah.
I would just say if he wants to prove himself the best, come to a tournament and then set times.
You know where he could start.
Don't.
Would you like to guess what I'm going to fly with?
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
He warned us he was going to be annoying us with talking about PYRAtlanta.
Well, I mean, if he came to PYRAtlanta, I would say that I'd want you to do 4-pad mode, because just the way Ryan starts and stops the timer, just for the sake of fairness.
Yeah, you know what? We might have to get an extra judge on his table, but
yeah, I might have to have some like 3 different camera angles.
You guys are gonna make me go bankrupt here at this rate. All right, next question. Best moment in your stacking career? Orrell, I guess that one's on you. Do you have a moment that stands out?
I mean, if you're talking about just like where I had a huge amount of like elation, maybe like for like a 1-minute period, I'd say some of the bigger ones would be definitely the first four in tournament. Like getting that was like finally clutched it out after just years of being stuck. Definitely getting the first 4.4 ever was a big moment. Um, I don't know. I can only really think of recent ones. I know early in my career there were some big moments, like winning my first Marquee tournament, winning juniors 2014 was so big because it got me past the mental block.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was good enough to win for like 3 years, and then I finally just won one, and that just like made a world of difference for me. I was also really excited at Worlds 2015 once I'd realized I'd won. All I had to do was just try to get better times, stuff like that. It's like the big accomplishments you'd expect I'd be excited about. Definitely the ones that stand out to me is like the big, quick adrenaline moments.
Feel that. Ethan, do you have a favorite moment that stands out to you, or your best moment?
Definitely us winning state challenge back at Nationals 2016, because I really felt like I owed it to G-Way and to Chandler and to Melissa, especially after the incident at Juniors 2014, where I just completely blew it when we had the chance to
Feel that.
advance at against North Carolina, and obviously, I'm sure that North Carolina definitely would have kept it competitive. I have no doubt. It's not as though we would have won had we beaten. I think we lost to Missouri. Yeah, we lost to Missouri. But yeah, with Nats 2016, it was a huge monkey off my back. I really can't think of any like individual moments that really stand out to me, to be honest. Yeah, maybe my first 2.1 in tournament, which is kind of sad that was like one of the one of the
I
high
remember
points
that.
of my
That was such a moment.
career. But that was really funny. Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
I was really happy about that.
I guess for me, as I mean, as controversial as this take might be, the 1205 was arguably that same moment where it was the most electrifying moment for me. That was one of two moments in my entire like career where I just kind of blacked out and didn't know what was going on, but I was still as like intensely excited, just because of the fact that it was a world record being captured. Obviously, unfortunately, asterisk. On top of that, I would actually say the first five in tournament for me was pretty big. And I think once, assuming I ever get it, my first four will probably be that same feeling of just blackout. I don't know what's going on, but it's happening type moment. But
That was like me for my first four in practice. That was a big moment.
yeah.
For sure.
Here's another question. What was your first set of cups? Do you even remember?
Yeah, I had SO yellows that we just bought at Toys R Us. My sister got the SO pinks. I got the SO yellows. And the logos are completely worn off now because they were used for years. That was my go-to set until I got the Emily Fox Pro series. That was literally like the only set I would use.
Yeah.
That was iconic. You using Emily Fox Pros is just iconic to me because I grew up watching a lot of the videos from like 2012 where you would use the Emily Fox Pros, and so like a lot of my early stacking memories are William stacking like the 530 and the 525, and the end tournament times as well.
Yeah.
Like the 583, the 568.
Yeah. Classics, man. We can only do a couple more questions here, so we'll have to wrap this up because Ethan does have to get to work. Unfortunately, I would love to keep going all
Sorry,
day.
I'm lame.
Yeah. Orrell, your first 5 video on YouTube was a 5.63. This was also your first video. Did you get other 5s before this? I assume you did, and you didn't jump the gun to a 563.
Not at all. I mean, my first 5 was shoot. I shouldn't remember this. I'm pretty sure it was 597, and I got it at my at a coin show that I went to. I'd already like looked at all the coins and stuff. My dad was helping from the front booth, and I went over to a table and stacked a bit. I got my first 6.0, which is a 609, like right before. I'd gotten my 611 at a practice table at Worlds 2010, just like a couple weeks before, and then just got my first 5. And I didn't have a big reaction because like it was a pretty chill room, but I was pretty excited.
Yeah, it was not the same for me or Ethan. We both lost it when we got our first 5s, but humble as always. Love it. All right. let's knock out this last question, the last question of the broadcast, arguably the most important question. We have to hear from you, William. When is the next 100x cycle live stream?
I mean, if I get back into good, consistent stacking condition, I'd definitely be willing to try it again. I mean, I could beat it, but it just like, I don't know, is it really worth it? Is there any other challenges people want me to go for other than just like 100-time cycle again? Because I already wrote the 11-minute barrier. I can't go much faster than that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that just sounds exhausting.
Yeah, is there any other goal people want me to go for? Like, I definitely can go for sub 55 10-time cycle. That's definitely one on my agenda. Sub 24-time cycle, stuff like that.
Most cycles in an hour, John Scandal asks.
I could definitely go for that.
I know there's a Guinness World Record. I think it's most cycles in a day, which...
I could easily beat that. But
oh, yeah.
I wouldn't want to pay for Guinness to have to, like, come out here and watch and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just get you in my room. You can just do it in the corner. Just have.
Hey, if I could do it for free, I'd do it. I'd beat the record for sure.
Yeah, I don't think anybody doubts that. It's just a bit of the mental fortitude, and who knows? Who knows? Maybe his next 100x cycle live stream will be whilst he's practicing at PYRAtlanta. Okay, I'll shut up about it now. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have for today's episode of the PYRAcast. Again, huge thank you to William Orrell. Thank you for jumping on with us. It was an absolute blast to have you here. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you and catching up and learning a little bit more about you and how you came to be. And of course, huge thank you to our tournament director in crime, Ethan Jones, as well, for being here as well. And yeah, I appreciate you guys all so much for watching these every single time. We'll let you know when we have an update on our next episode of the PYRAcast. But that has been the end of this one. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good morning, evening, afternoon, good day, good night, and keep on stacking. Take it easy, guys.